We'll talk about just 3 really main topics, and then we'll open up to questions. But throughout, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to raise your hand and ask. Type them in the chat, and we'll get to those as they come up. So for introductions, here helping me tonight, I have Brian McClure. Brian's a QCUSD graduate. He has some students some children in QCUSD right now, and he is a financial planner, advisor. So he's going to help with some of that technical stuff that I may not know. And then behind the computer screen, I have Blanca Morales. She's our PD coordinator. She's going to help facilitate the online virtual part of this.
Hello.
So one big thing here at Queen Unified School District is we want to tell you why we do these. It's important for us to help not only parents, but also our students be ready when they leave us. We're not just preparing them for the tests they're taking, but for long term. So in our mission, Queen Creek Unified School District empowers each student to achieve excellence in all pursuits and lead with integrity, not just while they're here, but after they leave our walls. So really it's just about that student success. So hopefully tonight we can help you with that. So the topics tonight are going to be saving, budgeting, and investing. We'll talk a little bit about debt, and then the all-important life after high school. And with that, I will turn the next couple slides over to Brian.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So I think the big thing is to understand that how much you save is as important as developing habits, right? I always tell people, if you don't save when you make a little, you're not going to save when you make a lot, right? And so one thing that I've done with my kids is anytime they earn a little bit of money or gifted money or whatever, we always set aside some money for the future, right? And then maybe, I'll give you an example. My son bought his own Nintendo Switch, right? It was something that was important to him. Not how I would spend my money, but it doesn't matter what I think, right? It taught him, hey, I can save for things, earn interest, and pay cash versus borrow money or rely on when mom and dad say yes, right? So giving them, having those opportunities are super, super important. Whether the money's coming in from an allowance, gifts, the earned money, the rule of thumb is you want to at least save 10%, okay? I'm a mean dad, I tell them 20%, right? So it's important to be part of, one thing about finances and building wealth is you need to be generous, and so we give 10%, and that can be to church or charity, whatever cause you're passionate about, but we give away 10%, and then we always save 20%. And so now what my kids have done is figured out, okay, when I get $10, right, I really only get to spend 7, right? That's actually what I have. And so by starting them now, early on, as they make more money, it's already that habit ingrained in them. So pay yourself first. See, most people, what they do, hey, Dr. Barry, what most people do is they spend first, and they say, well, I'll just save whatever I have left over. Well, Jennifer, how well does that work out for most people? Not so good, right? But those who build wealth, what they do is the opposite. They say, okay, I'm going to save first and then spend what's left, okay? And so what you're doing in this concept of pay yourself first is treating yourself as your most important bill, right? So you pay yourself first and then make ends meet with what's left over, right? We will tend to raise our expenses to whatever our income is. And so we'll spend everything plus some sometimes, right? If we're not careful. So it's definitely prioritizing. So like it says here, give them their allowance, watch them add it to their piggy bank. If they're old enough to have a savings account, take the bank to deposit the money. There's other savings vehicles that, I help people with, but the key is they're a part of that process and they're doing it themselves. You're having conversations about it. Most families don't talk about money. It's kind of like, taboo. And that can be changed just by deciding, hey, we're going to be more open about it. We're gonna be a little bit vulnerable as parents. We're going to talk about what we've done right, what we haven't done right, those kind of things. Oh, can you go back real quick? Sorry. And just look for those teaching moments, and we'll talk about that. So savings and expenses. The less expenses you have, the more you can save. Help them understand the value of saving and planning ahead, right? There's different things that we save for. Some that are real immediate, some that are a little bit further out, and then way far out. We're going to kind of touch on all of those, but it's super important to just create this culture in your home of we're savers, right? It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep that really matters. Yes?
What do you recommend
again, it depends on the family, like how if they want to have something that structured or official, if you will. I personally opened up investment accounts for my kids when they were born, right? And so obviously the sooner the better, but a lot of times it's usually when they're in junior high, high school, where as they have an opportunity to start earning some money, that they can go and do that and eventually have their own debit card and that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. It just depends. It depends, but I'd say when middle school, high school, I think that's a good time. So good question.
Great.
Yeah, sorry. I'm still going, right?
Yeah, so you're.
Oh, okay. So needs, wants, goals. Have your child create a budget. And a budget, a lot of times people, and it can be super simple, right? It could be on a piece of paper. It could be a spreadsheet. It could, you can Google budget examples or whatever. It doesn't have to be complicated. The key is you think and eat, right? They say that USA Today reported that you have an 1,100% better chance of hitting a goal when it's in writing. Well, a budget really is a goal. And we don't always hit that goal, right? We don't always stick to a budget. You have to kind of give yourself grace and know that you're not going to be perfect at it. But it's super important to identify what's coming in and what's going out, right? And what I like to see folks do and my kids do is look at it every month. And the reason why that's important, because some months you need to buy a gift for someone, or some months you have travel plans or whatever. So I love what you were saying, how, if you have a plan, when you go to Disneyland, you're going to want to buy stuff. And so they would put money aside in the envelope so that when they get there, they have some spending cash. But what the budget is just a way to free you to spend without feeling guilty, okay? A lot of people are like, oh, these rules or this budget is restrictive. Well, actually, what it does is it gives you permission to spend money. It gives you permission to go to a restaurant, it gives you permission to do this and that, because it's a part of the budget, and you don't have to feel bad about it because you planned on it, right? What a lot of people do is they don't have a budget, so they don't really know where they're at financially, and so then they will just spend, and then they're like, oops, and then they buyer's remorse, and then they're trying to get out of a hole or whatever. So starting that early is really, really, really good. Check registers, no one really uses anymore, I'll be honest, but that is a great option. But here's things that I see people kids want. They want to buy a car eventually, right? That just doesn't happen, that quick. Each family's different. Like we've told our kids, if you're using a family car, okay, then I get to control things a little bit more. But if you want more freedom, well then we'll pay for half, right? So now my kids aren't old enough to drive yet, but they know if they want to buy a car that we're going to help out with half. So then they have to start saving and preparing to be able to buy the other half. Now that's important because now they're going to take ownership of that. They're not going to let buddy spill milkshakes in the back seat. They're gonna wash it. They're gonna take care of it. And they'll treat it better if they have some skin in the game. And that's an important principle. My son recently lost his phone, and we did buy that phone for him, but it was literally like a couple months ago. And so he knows that, hey, when you're ready to have a phone again, we'll pay for half and that kind of thing. So it teaches them those responsibilities. They want new AirPods. Let's talk about this and say, hey, we'd love to support you. And here's the thing, as parents, it's okay to let them struggle or fail a little bit and figure this stuff out, because the price tag is low. When they can learn this stuff now, it's so much better when it's dealing with a phone or something that's not, like big ticket items. Okay, so just plan ahead. That's the most important thing. So.
Great.
Yes.
So we kind of had a similar situation, not with this one, but my other daughter. And so she dropped her phone in the water. And so she had to pay for half of the fee and then work off the rest in hours. And her question was, well, when you make a mistake, it doesn't take all of your money away. When I made this mistake, it took all of my money away. So I tried to explain it to her, but it's very difficult. And she's 6th grade. It's difficult because it was all of her money. Where, and so we kind of explained it on her level, but how would you go about explaining something like that?
Yeah, sure. So, if you're trying to help them, with getting, okay, so the thing you have to bring it down to is very simple. It's and show them, hey, this is what we make, right? This is what a phone costs, right? So yes, it's a small percentage, but that's because we work full time and we bring in this much money. And but what does take all of our money is the groceries, the mortgage, and you show them. So because it's like teaching people where food, kids where food comes from. It doesn't just show up. It comes from a farm and this and that. So what you're just trying to do is connect the dots. All my money goes away every month too. It's just, that's how you eat, that's how you clothe your body and how you sleep in a bed, So you're just kind of, you're showing empathy. You're like, I totally understand how you feel. Have you ever heard feel, felt, found? That's what you want to, hey, I know how you feel. I've felt the same way with our monthly budget, but I found out that if I help you understand the importance of, paying for something yourself, you're going to take better care of it and appreciate it more than if it's just given to you, right? So that's what I would do.
And I think along with that, adding the idea that the emergency fund piece, like, yes, it might be all your money, but if you plan ahead and you have that little extra to help you, hey, I made a mistake, but I still have some left because I have that emergency fund or I have some backup to help me. If you're doing that too, that just shows them again, hey, we have to plan for these mistakes that happen too. So
that's good. That's good. Okay, so that's a perfect segue to the 3 accounts you need. Okay, so this applies to everybody. If you're watching and you're a high school student or you're in junior high or you're a parent, I think this is a really important thing because we're going to talk about debt and how bad debt can get and how you really want to avoid it. Well, it's great to get out of debt. It's even better to stay out of debt. Well, the only way you get out of that debt cycle and stay in the cash cycle is if you have a solid rainy day account, right? So this emergency fund is really to prevent new debt and be prepared for things like needing to buy another phone or whatever you have. See, this is so important because a lot of stress happens in our life because we're not ready. And that's just life. That's a part of life. We want to be ready. So emergency fund, you want 3 months of whatever you make built up in emergency fund. And that may take some time, but if you have a part-time job and you're in school, right? And let's say you make, I don't know, $500 a month. It's super simple. Well, 3 times $500, you need about $1,500 in that emergency fund, right? So now when life happens, because it will, right? You're able to pay cash versus beg, borrow, steal, right, et cetera, or just have to do without something that you really would want to have, right? Now, short-term savings, this is things that you know you're going to spend money on, but you want to save for them. You know, I teach people where to put these things where they can earn interest and stuff. That's not tonight's topic. More importantly, what I want you to understand is you want about 6 months income in that account. These are general rules. You may have more specific goals that you have to, you know, adjust that. But if you have 6 months, whatever you make, for most people that could, you know, accomplish a goal. And if not, it's probably something they should wait until they make more money to do, right? So imagine if you had 9 months set aside for the what ifs in life and for, you know, a vacation trip or buying a car or whatever, you know, when that stuff comes up, you're, again, now saving for things, earning interest and paying cash versus, you know, financing it or anything like that. Now, you want to know that those who understand interest earn it, those who don't pay it, right? So this is what we're talking about. And then long-term savings and investments, whether it's you're saving for college, you're saving for retirement, you're saving for something that's long time down the road, well, then you're going to want to be an investor and have your money work hard for you versus you just work hard for your money. And that could be in accounts that protect from taxes and that kind of thing. And so we'll have a cool example that shows you how whether you're seeing this as a student or you're a parent, you can inspire them to immediately thinking, hey, when I get out of college, I need to start right away, right? When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time? Today, right? That's a famous Chinese proverb, but that's the same thing when it comes to saving. So, go ahead.
Sure. Okay. So, kind of what Brian's talking about with investing early. So, a one-time investment of $1,000 with a 9% rate of return on average is going to, by the age of 67, is going to get you $406,000. That's a lot of money if you just invest that right off the bat early. When you're born, when your kid's born, if you put that in, they have that at 67. That could be your kid, part of your kid's retirement, right? Second thing, at age 16, we're like, kids can't save $1,000, but if you could have them just put that one time $1,000 at the age of 67, that's $100,000 almost that they're going to have at the age of 67. A high school kid thinking about that much money, when they're 67, it might not be important, but when they turn 67, it will be. But if you don't start till age 40, in 27 years, you're only gonna have $11,000. So, as Brian said a couple times, start early. The earlier you start investing, the earlier you start saving, whether it's that short-term or long-term, the earlier you start, the better your return is.
Right? It's awesome. I love it.
So what we want to do now is give everyone an opportunity to kind of talk with your family just about that topic itself, saving, budgeting, investing. What do you do now to teach your child? And ask your child, maybe what, if they're with you, what did they know about those things that they maybe didn't before this? And then also just take a second to talk about how could you improve what you're already doing, or and more specifically what you're doing to teach your child about that. So we need about 2 minutes to just talk that over. And then we'll move on.
Angela, you have any questions for our experts here?
No, not yet. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll move on. If there aren't any questions, you guys have any questions? Are you good? Okay. So, when Brian and I put this together, a couple of things we want to do is just share with you some ideas on how to talk to your kids or what to talk to your kids, or even just how to demonstrate to your kids what it is that you can be doing to help them with these things. So first of all, be an example. Talk to your kids about what you do. You don't have to tell them how much money you make or how much you're spending on all those things. Maybe that's not something you feel comfortable doing, but share with them why you're doing what you're doing. Share with them why you make a budget, why you save for things and pay cash, just why you're making those certain financial decisions. That in itself will go a long way. Talk to your kids about the value of money. We all know we work hard for our money. Money, it doesn't come free. It doesn't grow on trees. So give them those chores to do. Give them an allowance for doing the different things that you want them to do around the house. Have them start a business if they're old enough. Babysitting, yard work, any odd jobs. Brian and I were talking, and I really like what he was saying. There's an extra thing to do around the house. Pay them to do that instead of you having to spend the time to do it. If you think they're capable of doing it, pay them a couple bucks to go do that extra job. Not the everyday chores that they're supposed to do, but something extra. That way they can earn that little bit of money doing odd jobs. Grandma or grandpa need their yard cleaned. Say, hey, my kid will do it, and have them make a little money. But that way they understand the value of money because they're the ones that are earning it on their own. And as hard as this is as a parent, let your child decide how to spend their money. As Brian said before, they're going to make mistakes, but at least it's on, $100 Switch or a couple $100 video game as opposed to a $10,000 car or, their house that they invested in or whatever else. That's a lot more pricey. Let them make the mistakes now so that they can learn.
Real quick while we're on that, I just was thinking about, bartering is good too. Like, I don't have my son pay for his cell phone every month, but he knows that he has to mow the lawn every week in order to keep his cell phone on, right? Or my other son, he knows for his phone, he has to walk the dog every day, or at least 5 days a week is kind of our deal, right? So we have, things that they're responsible for, and they know that, hey, I'm pitching in to the family budget. I'm not having to pay this, but I'm doing something in exchange. Other thing I think is really good is, well, like he was saying, we have, okay, wash the car, this or that. So anytime people, our kids say, well, we want to do this or earn some money for that we create things that they can do to earn some money. And like you said, keep it in the house, right? You can pay the local car wash or you can pay your kid. And then that's one less thing you have to buy for them because they earned that money and pay for it themselves. And then that it's theirs and they feel good about paying for something. Now, as far as everyday things, if you're at the grocery store, ask them which gallon of milk would they buy, or whatever the case may be. And what I've noticed in the beginning is they would obviously go towards the one that was prettier or better marketing or whatever. Well, then you say, well, what does it cost per ounce in this example, right? And then you start saying, wait, okay, so it's basically the same thing, but I'm paying 50% more on this because it's name brand or whatever. And so now all of a sudden they're learning, okay, hey, I should actually look at what quantity I'm getting, right? Because even companies will come out with new packaging, right? And it's the same price, but it's actually less volume. You guys remember when they did that with ice cream? How frustrating was that, right? but that's the idea. It's you're looking for teaching moments in everyday life so you can help them, like he said, learn the value of money.
All right, so debt. That 4-letter word that nobody wants to talk about. So the reality is everybody has debt. Most people have debt. I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people have debt. Houses, cars, school loans, all those things. Financial advisors, Brian, I'm sure will tell you, not going to tell you to go get in debt. They're going to tell you to try to pay cash for things. Because in the end, you're paying more for things than you would have. And there's two real types of debt that we want to talk about. You've got things like credit cards, that's revolving debt, and then a car loan, which is fixed debt. So Ryan's gonna go a little bit more into detail about that.
Awesome. Okay. So check this example out. If you made a one-time $3,000 credit card purchase and it was at 18% interest rate, that's actually the average, and you just stopped using it. So that was just no new purchases. And you paid what the statement said, which is a minimum payment, it would take 10 years to pay off that $3,000 purchase. But look at this, you'd end up spending over $2,000 more to pay that off, right? So a $3,000 purchase, but you're paying $5,000 for that item. And that's if you don't keep using it, right? People will add to it and use it, and pretty soon 5 years go by and like, I don't even know what I bought with this thing, right? And it just haunts them. It's like revolving debt. Think of it like a revolving door, right? So, you know, that you can't get out of, right? So it just goes around and around. Basically what they're doing is they're charging you interest upon interest. And as you pay down the balance, they actually lower the minimum payment. And that's a trap. Because if you keep paying less as you pay down, it just takes that much longer to pay off versus the next kind of debt.
So then we have fixed debt, for example, a car loan. So you're still paying interest, but not everybody has the patience to save $30,000 to buy a car, so you need to get a loan. But even with this at a 5.5% interest rate for over 5 years, your total payment is going to be, your total of 60 payments, you're paying $4,000 in interest. That's a lot better than percentage-wise than the last one. But that's with a $573 payment a month, and that can be a lot of money. But you don't have to go and pay more and more and have it take you 10 years. It's fixed. It's the same payment every month, and it's staying where it's at.
Yeah. So a student loan works the same way. Mortgage works the same way. It's a defined period of time that you're going to pay that debt off, and then you know you're going to be done, right? So fixed means it doesn't change. If it says line of credit, home equity line of credit, credit card, that's all revolving. That's the worst kind. I'm going to show you in the next slide a quick example between the two. So these are both $17,000 loans at 18%, right? You think, well, okay, it's the same. Well, a revolving debt, it would literally take you 17 years and 2 months to pay that off. You'd spend $12,500 in interest versus the fixed debt. Yeah, that's 18%. That's really high. But you're, paying $5,300 in interest, and you're done in 3 years and 2 months. Same initial payment, the same interest rate. But again, what do they do with this one? They lower your payment every time and hope that you just keep paying the minimums and are in bondage. That's really what debt is. Go ahead.
So that was pretty quick, but we want you to, again, take a couple minutes, talk to your kids if they're with you, or just think about these things. What do you want to teach to your kid about debt? What conversations have you already had about debt? And then how could you improve what you're already doing? And then if there's any questions, we can answer those.
How you doing, Angela?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
I was just say this. Hopefully, if you're in high school or junior high, or you don't have that yet, okay. But my kids all the time try to get in debt, meaning that they say, "Hey, can I buy this?" I'm like, "Do you have money for that?" And they're like, "No, but you can buy it for me." Or can I borrow the money for it? I'm like, "No, that's called debt, and we don't do that," right? And they hear me say this over and over again. Well, at some point, you may find yourself in that trap of debt. Literally, you walk on a college campus, the first thing they're trying to do is give you a free t-shirt to sign up for a Visa card, okay? This is just what they do, right? It's crazy. You're like, I don't make money, and you're gonna loan money anyways. But here's the thing: if you're trying to pay off debt, okay, I'll tell you what most people do, and this is important for parents if you have multiple debts. I call it the shotgun approach. They'll round up this one to the nearest 50, put an extra 10 bucks there, extra 50, but basically they're putting a little extra on multiple debts. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You actually, if you have a little extra to pay towards debt, that's a good thing, but you're going to pool all that money together and laser focus it on one debt. And it's not necessarily the one with the highest interest rate, it's the one that's going to be paid off the soonest, right? So you're literally paying minimums on all of your other debt, but you're focusing on one debt because it gets rid of it quickly, right? You feel this momentum and mini win that you're excited to keep going, right? And then that frees up not only the minimum payment that no longer exists on that target debt, but the extra you're putting on it, and you stack that onto the next debt. And it's the snowball effect of not changing what you're paying towards debt. It's the same throughout the process, but you literally can, cut your debt in half or more and save thousands of dollars of interest. So that's just a little something that you want to keep in mind. And that, I think, is a part of being that example and say, hey, yeah, we've done debt other than, because I think a lot of people, they do have to go into debt to buy a home. Education, I think, is a justifiable reason to go into debt. But did you need the $30,000 car, or could you have gotten a new to you but used car for $15,000 and let someone else take the depreciation? You need to teach your kids this, because if you're the one that drives it off the dealership lot, you lose 30% instantly. Let someone else do that, right? And it can maybe 2-3 years old or more, obviously, but again, still low mileage, reliable, that kind of thing. So you're just making those good decisions. I tell my kids that my Jeep is the best kind of Jeep there is, paid for, right? I bought it in 2018. It was a 2013. Wranglers all look the same, right? Only had 9,000 miles on it, right? I'm very proud of that, because I could have spent 20 grand more and got a brand new one, or I could get the one I want. And so have those conversations. First, make better decisions ourselves, but then have those conversations so that your kids will start trimming on that kind of stuff.
So kind of just to go along with what Brian's talking about. So some things, talk to your kids about keeping that debt as low as possible. Again, we know education, house, you're going to have just a debt at some point. Keeping that as minimal as possible. Saving up for a purchase and paying cash. Paying for your car for cash if it's possible. If you can start saving now, you could get a car when you're 16 and you're in junior high. And then stick to your budget and help your kids stick to their budget, not borrow money to buy the things that they may or may not want. And then really a big thing that a lot of people don't think about, but it's that debt to income ratio. So it's just a personal finance measure that compares the amount of debt you have to your overall income. You want to spend 28 or less, and Brian's probably going to tell me it's less than that, but I think for loans, most of the time they won't give you anything if your debt to income ratio is for a house is more than 28%. But talk to your kids about that. You know that you don't want to have that ratio off kilter. You know that you want to have it more balanced. So talk about your kids and even use their budget that they've made to illustrate. Use those examples, or if you want to use your budget, you can do the same.
You wouldn't want all your money going towards a car or all your money going towards a house and be house poor, right? And so that's just a good measure. If you look at, I spend $1, 28 cents, or I make $1, 28 cents must go towards the debt or a bank, right? That helps you understand, hey, 35% or less on all debt is a good idea. If you're approaching 50%, that's very dangerous. You want to work on that. So.
All right, and then the last section we're going to talk about is life after high school, and this usually makes parents the most afraid because we all know it's very expensive, and we don't want to incur that debt. Sometimes you have to, but couple of ways we're going to talk about this and kind of maybe help alleviate some of that stress. So as a kid, you may want to work while you're in school. Doesn't mean you have to have a full-time job, but you may want to have a part-time job to help you with those extra little expenses. You want to go out and have social life, go out to lunch in between classes. You want to have some of that cash in your pocket, so it's not a bad thing. There are even studies out there that say most kids who have a job while they're in school, it actually helps them because they manage their time better. They don't have the time to, I can just sit around for 2 hours. No, I got to go to work and in class and study, and they budget their time and they organize their time. So that's one way to help alleviate some of the stress of a cash flow while you're in school.
Can I say something on that? Because
Go
I
ahead.
heard this that was intriguing to me, that one of the common threads to the wealthy is they started working early on in their, whether it was, a lemonade stand or, some odd job or whatever, but they, at an early age, worked. And that immediately gave them opportunities to budget time and money and figure that kind of stuff out.
And if you're using your time to work and go to school, you don't have time to spend that money necessarily either. So make a little more.
This question is for parents. Have you ever had your kid, say, hey, I want to buy this, and then you let them know that they can, but it has to be their money, then they decide, well, I don't want it that bad, right? It's like, it's different if you're spending mom's money versus your money, right? So again, when you earn your own money, you tend to make better financial decisions than when it's someone else's.
Yeah. So, being an educator, this part is really near and dear to our good work grades now and hard work at school and getting ready for the ACT and SAT are going to play a role in what money you can get in scholarships and grants. Scholarships and grants are free money. They are throwing money at you to go to school. So a lot of times we think, junior high, it is important because that prepares you for high school, which then prepares you for college. So there are $6 billion in scholarships that are awarded each year to over 1 million students. If you can get a full ride or even a partial ride to a school, that will alleviate debt that you will not have for the next 15 to 20 years of your life. So working hard while you're in school now is super important. And then the other thing, I know a lot of times our kids I want to go experience life. I want to go out of state. Try not to, because in-state schools cost a whole lot less than going to college out of state. So just an example for you, ASU in-state tuition, I know you're like, oh, that's high. Higher than even when I went there, but $11,000. That's high, but the next number.
For 1 year.
For 1 year, by the way. That's out-of-state tuition. You're paying 3 times as much for out-of-state tuition at Arizona State. And that is just at Arizona State, not to say Arizona State's a bad school. That's where I went. But some of these California schools, or when you go to the East Coast, out-of-state tuition is more than that. So this is, again, making that smart financial decision. If ASU or U of A or NAU has the program that I need, why am I going to choose to go to UCLA or somewhere else where I'm going to have to pay $40,000, $30,000, $40,000 for the same degree? So just something to think about for life after school. But again, those grades are important now because, hey, you want to go out of state? Okay, get a scholarship, because then you can choose where you want to go. If that's really important to you as a student, make that a priority. The other thing is community college. This is a good option, especially for those students who don't know what they want to do. I'll be honest, I went to MCC because I knew I wanted to be a teacher, but I didn't know where I wanted to do special education, social studies. I didn't know where I wanted to go. But I was moving across the country, and paying $30,000 a year for ASU was not in the cards. So I paid a lot less to get some of those general education requirements and establish my residency. So I was able to go there and start a little bit. And Maricopa County actually has one of the largest community colleges in the country.
Yep, you're
And
good
while
on
he's doing that, I will just say, there's so much opportunity for not just needs-based scholarships, but merit-based scholarships. We always encourage, work with your counselors at the high schools because they know all the information about financial aid and, doing what's called the FAFSA and trying to get those scholarships and grants, and then go to loans. Well, I'll tell you, when I got into college, thankfully I had a full ride, but here's the thing: is I applied for more scholarships at the department level, at the collegiate level. I mean, there was so many more that even go unclaimed, and all I had to do is I kind of looked at it as my part-time job was applying for scholarships, and so I got, just by writing some essays, doing some interviews or whatever, I got more money that it cost me to go to school just by making putting a little effort forward. Well, if that's the case, then I think it's great to go to whatever school you want, right? But again, if you're on the hook to pay that whole amount, are going to have massive student loans. Yes, like you said, do the community college for 2 years, transfer, go get the ASU degree. The diploma says ASU, whether it's 4 years or 2 years. The employer doesn't usually care after that, and just spend a whole lot less. It's much better return on investment than going to a private school or out of state and being on the hook for that. So.
And this is just some statistics for everybody, but the big thing that I looked at with this is 36% of people that attend Maricopa community colleges are planning to transfer. That's their big thing, and because they work so well with U of A, ASU, and NAU, most, if not all, your credits will transfer. So it's not like you're paying and then, I went to school in Illinois first year. Some of my stuff didn't transfer, so I had to come back and take more. But instead of paying out of state $500 a credit hour at ASU, I paid, I think it was when I went to school, it was about $67 a credit hour. So it helped me kind of recover some of that lost cost I had. But again, if that full ride isn't an option, if scholarships aren't there, if you're paying for it all yourself, it's definitely an option for those of us who need that. So
if you do end up getting student loans, always try to get subsidized student loans, which means you're not being charged interest while you go to school. And then you go to the unsubsidized loans, which means that you don't have to pay them back while you're in school, but they are charging you interest. And so that's not good.
Grants and scholarships as much as you can. So for those of you with your students with you, some strategies for the college piece is start thinking about it now. It is never too early. I know, Brian, you probably started a savings account for your kids for college already. I have too. Put that money in there as a parent if you can. If not, have your kids start putting some of that allowance, that 10% that you're saving or 20%. College is expensive. No matter what way you look at it, it is expensive. And that number I showed you too was tuition. That's not room and board. That's not books. That's not the laptop that you need. That's not going from class to class if you have to drive. There's a lot of other things that can go in there. So if you don't plan for it now, you're going to pay for it for a long time. I have former teachers of mine, I remember talking to them after I graduated, and they said that they were still paying their student loans off 20 years later. And that's a long time to have that debt hanging over your head because you're not working for yourself, you're working for that debt. So the sooner you start planning, the better off you are.
That example you gave of 9%, you can earn a really great rate of return in an account that grows tax-free if you specifically set it up for something like this.
Absolutely. And then the big thing for the students that are watching or parents that want to pass this along to your students, try to figure out what you like to do. I know that was actually my fear graduating high school. I was like, I'm not 100% sure. What do I do? The nice thing we have here in Queen Creek is we not only discuss career interests from K through 12, but we also have a program known as ECAP. And that basically goes through the kids' personality interests, their career interests, and helps kind of fit them. Now, we know that our students, they're in first grade, they want to be a firefighter, and then by fifth grade, they want to be a teacher, and by eighth grade, they want to be a YouTuber, and then, it changes, we know that. But this kind of helps narrow those things down as they get older and goes through. And we also have awesome CTE programs. These are just a couple of them: agri-science, film and TV, carpentry, graphic design, sports med, early childhood education. Those are awesome because if you complete the program, you can get certificates that help lead you into whatever business, whatever program it might be, whether it helps you get into college, helps you get a job while you're in college. It just helps you start on that right foot, and you really will find out. I mean, you might complete the film and TV program and say, I never want to do it again. Well, at least you eliminated something you don't want to do. Or you find out that's what I want to do. That's my passion. Well, now you go to school, you know where you want to go and what you want to do. So you're not taking all those detours. So that is a super important thing to do as you're going through. Take those electives that you think, maybe that kind of interests me. Let me try that out.
And you can even like do a ride along with a plumber if you think you want to go into plumbing. Or I did that with my dad as a veterinarian, and I eliminated that. I wanted to be a large animal vet for the rest of my life. You know, so get in the corridor and experience it and just see what you like and what you don't like, and find out like what do these careers pay, right? Because HVAC person can make really good money, and it's so that may be a better fit than college or whatever. So, and
along with that, our counselors, our teachers, our community in general in Queen Creek is very good about supporting. I have Brian here helping me tonight about supporting our students and things. So if you have your child is like, I really want to know what this is all about. If you reach out to their teacher, principal, counselor, chances are we'll be able to set something up that you will be able to kind of let them at least experience it firsthand. Like Brian got to his dad, like, I don't want to do that. But gets them into somebody who's local, somebody who could help mentor them if that's really what they want to do. There's a lot of opportunities out there for that too. It's just a matter of having your child reach out and figure out if that's what they want to do. Going to college, get those scholarships if you can. Like Brian said, there's a lot that go unclaimed, and a lot of times it's a matter of writing a 2-page essay, and they'll give you $1,000. I wish I would have done more of those. That would have been my part-time job. Start saving now. The earlier, the better, as we showed you before with the savings, especially for college. And then make those smart choices about where to go to school. Again, if you can go to ASU or U of A or NAU and get the degree you need, go there instead of going to an East Coast school or a California school. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but it's going to cost you a lot of money because you're going out of state. So again, we're going to give you the opportunity. Just take a minute. Think about or talk to your child. Have you talked to them about what their interests are or what their plans are? And have you talked to them about college? And if not, now's your opportunity. So we'll give you a couple more minutes to do that.
Angela?
Hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering, are there any websites or anything online geared specifically towards teenagers in regards to creating budgets or just to kind of give them that practice?
yes, so we're gonna email you a How Many Works guide for kids. It's a parent's guide on how to teach them those kind of things, and there's a lot of great material in there. Another good resource is Dave Ramsey has some good things out there that personal finance that he can help you with. There's books. But yeah, start with that guide. My email and phone number is going to be on this presentation. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to give you some more direction if you'd like.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Angela, I'm going to go ahead and link in those resources that were just mentioned in the chat. So before you leave, if you want to just copy and paste them, or if you want to go to the page you signed in to register for this, you signed up for this workshop. There is a resource page below the financial literacy workshop for you as well, with all of these resources.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're on the home stretch. I promise that there's 2 more slides. I'm going to cover this one, and then we'll finish this up with Kevin. But this, I think, kind of sets the stage, or should inspire your kids to want to start sooner than later and become savers, investors versus not thinking about it until they're in their 40s or 50s, right? So if you were to say, you know what, I'm going to max out a Roth IRA, which grows tax-free, and you can do up to $6,000 a year. I mean, that sounds like a lot of money right now, but you know, you get a decent job outside of, you know, work, and you start doing this as soon as you can, outside of college. I mean, you start doing this as soon as you can. It makes a massive difference down the road. So in this example, you had someone at age 22. So they just graduated college, got their first job. Their expenses were still pretty low. They decided, hey, you know what, I'm going to get serious and I'm going to save. And they, for I guess it would be 48. So for 8 years, they maxed out their Roth IRA, and then they're like, now I got kids, I got a house, I can't do it anymore. I stopped, right? But they let that $48,000 compound and grow at 9% rate of return. At age 67, which is normal retirement age according to Social Security, they would have $2,214,850. Isn't that incredible? Now, this is also incredible. The person that waited those 8 years and then got serious and decided to max out their Roth IRA at $6,000 a year, they ended up with $2,041,590, which is incredible because they only put in $228,000. But notice that's less money than the first person, and they had to put $228,000 in versus 48. So who are people hurting if they wait, right? So that is the time value of money, of having that compound and grow, right? And so the sooner you can have your money work hard for you and protect it from Uncle Sam and an IRA or 401k, some type of tax shelter, the better off you'll be. And I think this will give your kids a lot of hope that, hey, I actually could have a good retirement if I just get going sooner than later, okay?
All right, so you can do it. A little motivation here. So that path to the financial independence, not only for you, but for your kid, it starts with understanding these basic concepts, but also implementing them. We can talk all we want, but we need to make sure we try to do that. Winning the financial war is the result of winning tiny battles day to day. Making sure that instead of buying lunch on your credit card, you're paying cash for it. Buying things with cash and not using your credit card, or minimizing that. And then if you put together a simple plan and follow it, you'll be amazed at the progress you can make. Like Brian said, if you write down your goal, you write down your budget, you'll be able to make that progress that you want, whether it's on debt or whether it's on just making sure you stick to that budget and being able to save, and also in the process teaching your child how to do those things as well. So with that, we're all done talking. But here's our contact information. If you have any questions about anything that we covered, if it's real technical, financial jargon, you can email Brian. He'll have more of that information. But if there's anything on the college piece, the university stuff, I could help you, or at least direct you to who at your site can help you with some of that stuff. So if you want to write any of that down, or I think Bob is going to post that, so it'll be accessible to you. And then we would love to know what you thought about this and how we can improve. So if you could fill out the survey, there's the link right up here, or if you want to use the QR code, you can do that. And we really appreciate all of you coming and joining us tonight. And are there any questions before we end this session? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, everybody.
Yay.
Angela, I just posted everything that was mentioned, the 2 links and Brian's information with his phone number and email. And then, of course, please visit our website if you would like to see a video of this presentation later on. It will be available to you on our Bitly as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys so much for offering this class. It was really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you. Appreciate it.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yes.
That was great. I wish someone could give me that information at her age.
Right.
You know, I mean, just the second to last slide, but that's amazing.
Yeah.
If I
Oh, I
had known that before we had kids, I swear we had all this money, we didn't feel like we did. And then after the kids